Great evening, Facebook. It's about, and to my YouTube family, I can't forget to speak to y'all too. It's about 7:20 in the evening. And so I just wanted to come on and I wanted to talk with you guys for a minute about some information that I stumbled on in doing some research. I tried to put this video up the other night, and for some reason the video would not stay, and the title of this video is simple: the real reason why Dr. King died and who we are as the so-called Negroes living in this country. Now, how I found out what I'm about to tell you about, I'm telling you, you need to, if you African American, if you white, you need to be sitting down when I explain to you what I'm about to tell you. I used to post, still do, on YouTube every Thanksgiving. I talk about an old ancestor of mine. Her name is Matilda Foster. And Matilda Foster was born in this country, right here in America, in 1509. And that's like 19 years after Columbus supposedly discovered America. 19 years. It was only a matter of time for posting these things that I used to post every Thanksgiving Day for my family. It got to the point where I had to ask myself the question, why is Matilda being born in America in 1509? How did she get here? Who brought her here? How was one of my ancestors born in this country in 1509? Okay? Because I checked. I did research on the Nina, the Pinta, the Santa Maria, these so-called boats that Columbus supposed to use to get over here to the Americas in. He didn't have any he didn't have any Africans on the boat. He didn't have anybody of a copper color tone on his boat. So how did she get here? And somebody had to make her. So how did they wind up here? That question drove me for almost the last month, almost 2 months, since Thanksgiving. I started doing intense research on trying to find out why does my ancestry go back that far in this country? And as I did this research, I uncovered some things that to the individuals who are in the African American community, who call yourself African Americans, who relate yourself to Africa, a continent that's thousands of miles from here, I'm here to let you know that what I found out will shock you. It's going to blow your mind. The truth is, and I don't know how to say this, so I'm just going to say it. The truth is, when Columbus got off of the ship, when he landed on Plymouth Rock, the first Indians that he saw was us. We were the Indians that the Europeans encountered when they first came here. Not them pale-faced, mongoloid Indians that they like to show in the movies. When they came here, they ran upon an indigenous, African-looking people on this continent. That's what they saw. Columbus sent out 2 search parties. Columbus didn't even get off the ship. He sent off 2 search parties. And this is documentation that I read that was supposedly from Columbus' own law that he kept on the ship. Columbus sent out 2 search parties. They both hit the shores. One went one way, the other one went another way. What they were looking for or safe areas to be able to allow these people to get off the ship and find grounds to camp, all that type of stuff. Because they had been at sea for months, so they was craving land. Now, when he sent off these two scouting parties, one of the boats came back. The individual on the boat was paddling so fast, him and the other guy that was with him, that they slammed into one of the ships. They were frantic, beating on the side of the boat to tell the individuals on these ships that just landed in the Americas to let them on board. And when they finally got up, people were startled. Columbus came up from the bottom of the bow where he was in his office. He comes up on deck. "What's wrong with you people?" he asked them. They told Columbus, "There is Africans out there." Columbus said, "Get out of here. What do you mean there's Africans out there? I am an expert salesman. I know where I landed. This is the Americas." He said, "No." The scout said, "No. There are Africans out there. Africans." So Columbus got on the ship with him, took his binoculars, his telescope, and as they rolled to the shore, he would open it up and look. And he couldn't believe what he was seeing. They made it to the shore and saw indigenous people this color. Now the second party come running up. Didn't want to startle these people because they see Columbus and these, what they used to call us, copper-colored people, meeting face to face. And they walked over to Columbus very slowly. And they said, "We just seen a village where it's got to be close to 20,000 of these indigenous people. 20,000. Let me tell you something. We were lied to. The African Americans in this country are not African American. We are indigenous to this land. This is our land. We didn't come from no Africa on slave ships. That was bullcrap. Slavery was taught to you of how it happened for real in reverse. They didn't bring no 50 million slaves across the water and bring them to the Americas. We fought wars with these Europeans, the indigenous, copper-colored people who was really occupying this land. We fought wars with them. And in order to make peace, we knew one thing and they knew another. They had superior weapons than we did. But we knew the land better than them. And America is one of these landscapes that have different climates. Snowing in one area, hot and sunny in the next. So you have to know how to plant. You have to know the surface. You have to, the soil, everything. So they made that pact with us. And we became indentured servants. Not slaves like they show you with chains on you. We became indentured servants. We were made a promise that if we worked for so many years, they would give us relieve us of our duties, which we became freed men, which is what they called us. We'd be able to get land, have money, step out of society, have a business, whatever. Period. Now let me tell you something. What would make a slave getting whipped and beat by his oppressor stay there and just take it? The Creator have never created a man that weak. Period. Not only that, if you look at it from a white perspective, why would you, as a white slave master, beat your slaves, sell their children, rape the wife, and shoot her outside when you're done with her, and then give her husband an axe to go cut some firewood? Who you think you're going to cut with that axe? The wood or you? We've been lied to, y'all. This is the greatest American deception that I've ever seen in my life, and I never would have found out about it had I not did the research that I did. I would have never found out that we are the Indians that they encountered. This is our land. This is our land, not theirs. And documents exist to prove this. Documents exist to prove this. I'm going to give you one book, and you can go online and find this book. You can go online. The book is called the Noah-Webster Dictionary of English. The American Webster Dictionary of English. Type in 1828. And it has, of course, a search engine where you can look up the definition of the words in this dictionary. Ask the dictionary, what's the definition of an American? And it will tell you that it is the indigenous, copper-colored people discovered by Columbus when he first landed here. And now it applies to white Europeans who were born here. Look up Webster Dictionary, 1828. Webster Dictionary, 1828. We are the original Indians that was here. And of course there was fights, there was insurrections, there was all this because they weren't keeping their promises to us. They weren't keeping their promises. And even when they did allow some of the indigenous Nietzsche Indians that lived here, our color, when they did keep their promise, they would ship them out of the country. A lot of them by gunpoint, coercion, to make them get on the ships and send them to England as slaves, to Spain as slaves, even to Africa. Under the presidency of Thomas Jefferson, they sent 300,000 indigenous copper-colored people from this country. Let me hang this phone up. They sent these people to Africa, the country of Liberia. The country of Liberia was created by 300,000 indigenous Americans that were shipped out of here. 300,000 of them they shipped out. Now I'm going to unplug this phone and make sure it does not come on anymore. Now, when they wanted to ship these people, of course the British had a colony in that area. They said, don't ship these people over here. If they team up with the Africans that are already here, then there is going to be a point where these people unite and they may overthrow all of us. And Thomas Jefferson said, I don't care. You can shove it up your tea drinking behind. They coming over there because the Americans, Europeans, were scared of them because they were free. They were very intimidated of these individuals. So they shipped them out. They shipped them out to a whole nother country. That was you calling Vanessa. Oh my God. But let me do this because I need to get this information out there. Here is the deal. Sierra Leone, Liberia, are the indigenous ancestors that came from here. They're the indigenous people that lived in this land. And that's why the Africans treat them so bad. I never understood why they cut the feet and hands off of these people. Make them dig for diamonds and treat them so brutally. It's because the Africans know that they don't belong there. The British told them this a long time ago. They created a hate campaign so these two would not unite. Let me tell you something else. Let me tell you something else right now. Dr. King knew this. Dr. King knew who we really were. Dr. King knew that we were the indigenous Indians, copper-colored Indians that they found when they came here. Columbus and them came here and found us. Okay? Slavery never existed like they said. Now, the African slaves, there were some brought to the Americas. Only 12% of the total Africans taken out of Africa throughout the whole time of the African slave trade made it here. Okay? Only 12% made it here. Once they became part of the population of the indigenous copper-colored people who were already here, once they became part of that population, they only represented 2% of the population. 2% of the indigenous people that were here. I'm going to say it again. This is our land. This is our land. We didn't come from no Africa. They lied to us. And you know why they did it? You know why they did it? They lied to us because they knew good and well that they was going to eventually have to pay us for what they promised us. And what scared them into really changing our identity legally was because of the Dred Scott case. You got Dred Scott, a black African American, a black indigenous copper-colored person who wanted to ride the trains after slavery was over with. And there was a big lawsuit because this train line did not want him riding with the rest of the white passengers. And so they put him off this train. They put him off this train. Cases like this was going to the Supreme Court. The most powerful case that really scared them was the Trail of Tears story that you hear, where they found gold in the 1800s on land that belonged to the indigenous copper-colored people on that land. And what happened was the local politicians were selling off parcels of that land like 90 going west. Next thing you know, there's all these people on this Indian property mining for gold. So, of course, they got a lawyer. This case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Indians won. John Marshall was the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court when this decision was handed down. John Marshall is one of those unique peoples who created the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court didn't really have power till John Marshall saw how much potential and power that it could have. And he utilized the power of the judicial review, using the Constitution to supersede any laws. If you don't agree with the Constitution, can't use it. So the Indians won. And what happened was, a lot of these individuals who brought that land, they complained to our president at the time, Andrew Jackson. And Andrew Jackson said, okay, they won. Now, let them get out there and enforce it. Let them go out there and enforce that law. Let those 9 men who made that decision go out there and enforce it. Meaning that he wasn't going to put any executive might behind that decision. So what happened? The black people, the copper people were led off that land, and it was taken from them. And what European politicians saw is that if they can win a Dred Scott case, they can win a reparations case. So we need to do something about this. And thus became the plan to change the African Americans' identity from Indian to Negro and to color. Those were the two things they changed our identity to. So now what I'm trying to tell you is that Dr. King, one of our greatest civil rights leaders, knew this. Dr. King knew. Dr. King knew we didn't come from Africa. Dr. King knew this was our land. Dr. King knew we were the Indians that they found when they got here. And that what they did was change our race and then have us coming from a continent focusing on another landmass that had nothing to do with us. Dr. King knew this. Dr. King said it several times. I know y'all have heard his speeches. I have a dream. That's mostly everybody's favorite speech. He made in August 1963, right in front of the Lincoln Memorial. Dr. King said something that day, encrypted. Nobody caught it. I've heard the speech 20 times, and I never caught this until I listened to it again. Dr. King said, the Negro is on an island of despair while surrounded by an ocean of prosperity. Dr. King said, the Negro has been made to be an exile in his own land. He said this in the I Have a Dream speech. The Negro have been made to be an exile in his own land. Now, why would a man who really believed in his heart that all his family came here from Africa to here? Dr. King was giving messages, and he was giving them encrypted. Here's another speech you can look up. Dr. King, 1967, April 14th, M.L. King's speech. Type it into any search engine and listen to Dr. King. Dr. King says in that speech, when the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock, we were already here. This is what Dr. King says in 1967. There was another interview. I think it was NBC interviewed Dr. King before he died, several months. And Dr. King gave answers that were of an odd nature to the reporter. He was telling him that the real truth of why this so-called Negro is in this position that he is because the individuals who put him in this position know what they need to do to make things right. And it's going to cost them billions of dollars to do it. This is Dr. King. When Dr. King put together the Poor Man's Campaign, the Poor People's Campaign to march to Washington, and you can pull this speech up, MLK's Poor People's Campaign. That is when Dr. King tells his staff the truth, that they are the indigenous Indians of this land. Not the Indians they seen in the movies. Because all we know about the Indian is what we see in the movies. Ponytails, pale-faced. That's what we see. But we were the ones they encountered. And Dr. King knew this. He knew that we had performed a service of servitude and was given a promise that once we worked and ended our servitude, that we would become freed men, and they would give us land, money, allow us to share in the America that we helped them build. our land, on our soil. Now, when I heard this, when I first discovered this, I'm telling you, it blew my mind. My head spun in whole 360 degrees. Because there's been times in my life that I was the most raging Pan-African person you could ever meet. Thinking I came from Africa. When this was my land. I listened to, and I'm going to tell you something else, y'all. This is going to shock you too. We've been lied to about all these stories about people. Nat Turner. What? No, Nat Turner. It's a lie. I did the research. I couldn't even find a picture of the man. And when I did find a picture, it was a picture of Dred Scott. I'm saying to myself, an individual who understands and knowledgeable about history, that's Dred Scott. That's not Nat Turner. They lied to us. The earliest story I found about Nat Turner, oh my God, I can't believe I can't remember the newspaper right now, written in the 1800s, in the fiction section of the paper. There wasn't no Nat Turner. Let's think about this story now, y'all. Here is a man who leads an insurrection where they killed 50 white people in 2 days. Now, I'm familiar with the geography of Virginia. These houses back then were not close together. In 2 days, they caught Nat Turner. Now, how you gonna catch Nat Turner that fast? First of all, he killed everybody. Wasn't no witnesses. Ain't like nobody could come and warn y'all. And the land mass is humongous in Virginia. And y'all caught him in 2 days. Then the story tells it that he sat in prison for 3 months. Wait a minute. This is supposed to be the most racist, whipping black people society that you could ever encounter. And this man killed 50 white people. And y'all didn't kill him when y'all caught him. Y'all let him sit in a jail for 3 months. It's a bull crap fictional story. Even when the memoirs of Nat Turner was put together in a book, it was in the fiction section. I'm going to tell y'all something else. Another lie. Harriet Tubman. Oh my God. Oh my God. I couldn't believe what I found out when I did research on Harriet Tubman. Let me tell you something, man. Every researcher that I found, collegiate individuals that did research on her, people who put stuff out in the public domain, the amount of people that Harriet Tubman supposed to took to the north because of slavery got less and less and less. Started at 300, then ended up at like 200. Next thing you know, it's 75 people. And guess what? That was her family she took. Cousins. She made a statement that I could have brought a lot more people from the South if they would have realized they were slaves. Why do you think she made that statement? Because the indigenous Nietzsche, the copper-colored people who were here first, was made a promise. And they didn't feel like slaves. They were indentured servants. Let me give you an example. Look at the movie Roots. Who was getting whooped all the time, his foot cut off, and chased by hounds? Kunta Kinte. The rest of those copper-colored people stayed on the plantation. Why? Because slavery was different for the African in this country than it was for the indigenous Nietzsche. We were made a promise. Kunta Kinte was snatched against his will and brought over here to do something that he didn't want to do. Take a ride he didn't want to take. They don't never show you the backs of the other people in roots. Let me see they back. How many whips on it? No, they show Kunta Kintes. Now, they were whipping Africans because they had to. These Africans did not come here to be slaved by any man. So they fought. Some of them ran. They wasn't going to accept the situation that they were put in. But the indigenous people, my ancestors, worked to earn their freedom. Bottom line. So you got two phony stories. I'm researching now the Civil War. Because they ain't fight to free no slaves. It might have ended slavery on any type of levels in this country. But that story we've been told, it's a lie, y'all. It's a big lie. And Dr. King died because he was going to tell the truth. Dr. King told his staff when he set up the Poor People's Campaign to make a second trip to Washington. Dr. King is explaining how they ripped us off, how they forsaken us and didn't give us the promise that they should have kept for us. And Dr. King said at the end of that speech, when we go to Washington, this time we are going to get our check. That was Dr. King's words. When we go to Washington this time, we're going to get our check. And about 4 days later, they killed Dr. King. 4 days later, they killed him. Dr. King, had he been able to achieve that, would have definitely created a market in this country that was really a free market where I can make $1 billion if I want to. You can make it as long as you have a dream. The country that we live in now is a capitalist society. And capitalism is built on a bunch of evils and racisms. All come from Charles Darwin in the late 1800s. This survival of the fittest shit. That all of these rich individuals, rootin' tootin' capitalists, like Andrew Carnegie, what was the other one? Ford, Henry Ford. The other one was John D. Rockefeller. And John D. Rockefeller used to preach this on the golf courses with millions, well, not millions, but several hundred rich people. He used to be a minister, and he would preach this sort of racist, eugenic pseudoscience from Charles Darwin, that they are better than anybody else on the planet. And it's going to be big fish, and it got to be little fish. So we have something to eat. That was their attitude. And if they would have allowed King to do what he was about to do, it would have upturned everything as in capitalism as we know it. There's a lot of black people at that time that would have really motivated themselves to opening up businesses, everything, the whole nine. They would have did this. And so they killed Dr. King to keep Dr. King from upturning the capitalist society that we lived in at that time. They killed the man. Period. Because he knew the truth. That the African, so-called African Americans in this country did not come from Africa. This land is our land. We own this land. How you doing, Auntie? This is our land. Our land. And it's all in Columbus's notes. It's all in the Spanish conquistadors' notes that landed in South America. They were seeing the same, what they called in their notes, Ethiopian-looking people. Which when a European says Ethiopian, he's talking about the whole continent of Africa. not one country. What we've been taught is a lie. We are the original Americans. The movies with the Indians with the ponytails, pale face, that's a lie. They look just like us. They were copper-colored people. Period. They were copper-colored. This color. So this is our land. This is where we belong. And this is where all black or indigenous copper-colored Nietzsche was so desperate to fight for this country because we have a connection to the land. We have a connection to the land. That's why in the Revolutionary War we wanted to fight. War of 1812 we wanted to fight. Civil War we wanted to fight. World War I and World War II, Korean War, we wanted to fight. And Vietnam War was a bunch of us who went out to that war. This is our land. We're connected with this land. We have been lied to. Now, some of you have roots from Africa because, like I said, 12% of the Africans moved from Africa to the Americas. From Africa to the Americas only represented 12% of the indigenous copper-colored people that was here. 2%. So if you take that number and look at 45 million black people or indigenous copper-colored Indians, us in this country, the people who actually came from Africa only represent 2% of the population. The rest of us, this is our land. I never would have found this out had it not been for my ancestor, Matilda. I never would have did this if it wasn't for Matilda. I remember when we went to that gravesite back in I believe it was 88. That was the first tombstone I kneeled in front of. All these Fosters, just grave upon grave upon grave of my ancestors. But that was the first one I kneeled in front of. I believe when I touched her tombstone, her spirit came back from down south to Buffalo, where I lived at that time, with me, because I have not been able to get her out of my mind. I even had a dream about her. And the dream didn't make any sense. Because at that time in my life, I was one of the most raging black Pan-African individuals you ever want to meet. That's the truth. I wore the red, black, and green outfits, anti-medallions, all flavors, ivory bone bracelets, you name it, that was me. It was me. Seriously. But you know what? When I saw Matilda in my dream, she was an Indian woman. Black, copper-colored, like me. But she was an Indian woman. Matilda stuck with me. And had she not did that, I would never have done the research that I done to find out what has made my whole world turn a 360. We're not from Africa. We weren't shipped over here from Africa. We are the original indigenous copper-colored people. And if you have any problem understanding that, which some of you may, white and black, pull up the Webster's Dictionary, American English Dictionary, 1828. And they'll pull that dictionary up where you could go into the dictionary and type in, what is an American? And it will tell you. An American is the indigenous, copper-colored Indians that were discovered here by Columbus and now applies to any white European. Now I know y'all asking, how did y'all become black? How did this African thing even happen? It happened after slavery was ended. Any type of servitude, any of that stuff was ended. Couldn't do it no more. It was then they set up the Homestead Act of 1865, where they were giving away big chunks of land in the Midwest that was supposed to go to the indigenous copper-colored Indians. But that didn't happen. They didn't want to honor their promises to us. What they did is that they changed our name, changed our identity from Indian to Negro or colored. Therefore, any Indian that existed could take advantage of that land. Read the Homestead Act of 1865. It allowed white Europeans to pay $5 to be an Indian, just so they could get the Indian benefits while they changed our identity. And thus, the smear campaign started to change who we were. Say we was from Africa and have us looking at another landmass that has nothing to do with us. Period. And they did it because they didn't want to be sued and pay reparations to us. Do you know, black people, why? I'm going to say black because this is how most of y'all know yourselves. So I'm going to talk to you. Do you know why you never will ever get reparations? Because it's a civil lawsuit. And I'm going to break a civil lawsuit down to you to its most easiest way of understanding. This is what it means. Simple. I'm injured. I have to be the one that's harmed. And if I'm going to sue, I have to sue the person who directly harmed me. Period. Point blank. I have to sue the person who directly harmed me. And when you say you're from Africa, it's impossible for you to get reparations that way. Because what you got to do now is first of all, 2 or 3 lawyers can't go to Washington and sue for you and say, pay all black people reparations. That's not the way it goes. The injured party has to show up and say, I want to sue this boat company, trading company that brought my ancestors from Africa to America. And then I want to sue the people that they sold them to. So now you have to trace your ancestors back to when they got off the boat. Now, if I just told you, you are an indigenous Indian, where you think you're going to find proof at that your family came off the boat? It ain't happening. You're not going to find any proof whatsoever that your family came off any African boat. Number 2, you got to find a family that they sold them to and then sue them. That's why we will never win a reparation lawsuit to today. Because this is what the government is telling the lawyers who is taking these lawsuits to Washington against the government. They're saying, come on, man. Come on now. You have to personally be injured. And you have to know the party that injured you. You can't do that. You can't establish that. No lawsuit. Period. So this is why we will never win a reparations case with the Africa story. That's why they stuck it on us. It was brilliant. I have to admit, it was brilliant. That's why they stuck that story on us. But if we start waking up and realizing who we are the real indigenous Indians. If we wake up and really reclaim our history and claim our connection to this land, if we wake up and understand that promises was made to us and they broke them, reparation lawsuit is on and popping. Now you can send 3 lawyers to Washington and sue the government. The government's reason for getting out of reparations when we say we from Africa, which is a lie, which is what they want us to know, is a lie. It's a lie. They know. All they have to say is the government wasn't responsible for slavery, and we fought a civil war in this country to free y'all. We fought a civil war in this country. So why should we pay y'all? We lost 600,000 people making sure that y'all were free. Okay? So how you going to sue the U.S. government? You can't sue us. We didn't run any slave companies. Slave trading was done by certain trading companies that did it. So they'll tell you, go find a trade company that brought your... And we have to do it individually. I got to sue. You got to get a lawyer. That person over there got to sue. That person over there got to sue. And we got to find the boat that brought our family over here. Then we got to find the family that they sold them to. Then pray to God they got some money. Period. It's impossible to get reparations with that story, and that's why they made it up. They made everything up. There wasn't no Harriet Tubman that led the black people to freedom. That woman took her own family freaking up north. And most of them went to Canada. Why? Because America kept breaking their promises to them. Wasn't no Nat Turner. Santa Claus is more realer than Nat Turner is. These are false stories. False stories. And I'm still doing my research on the Civil War. But Harriet Tubman, you know what really blew my mind about Harriet Tubman? They said that there was a $20,000 reward out for her. Nowhere was there a $20,000 reward. I can't find it. Other scholars who have done research, and I've read their work, can't find it. There was no $20,000 reward out for this lady. Period. It's a lie. We've been lied to. Big time. Lied to, man. And even if you look at the African and look at us, we're different from them. We look different. We have a different type of energy flowing through us than they have. We're not African. You are the original indigenous copper-colored people discovered by Columbus when he first came here. Dr. King was killed because he knew this. And he was about to tell everybody the truth. You know what made Dr. King so dangerous? Dr. King believed in freedom in 2 ways. Not like the dictionary definition. In 2 ways. This is how Dr. King understood freedom to be. Number 1, when you are born, you have already inherited your inheritance of freedom, because we are all born free. We're not born being owned by any man. We're not born being controlled by anybody. There is no boundaries for who we can be and what we choose to be. That was Dr. King's belief. He believed that we were born free. But the second thing that Dr. King believed is this, that the minute you allow somebody to think for you, you have just enslaved yourself in the worst way imaginable. Period. You have just enslaved yourself. Being able to be a free thinker, growing over that immature hankering to want to let somebody else teach you instead of you doing it for yourself, thinking for yourself, pecking out of the hand of somebody else's knowledge that they hand feed you. That's an immaturity, intellectual immaturity. So when you overcome that and become a free thinker, then all that comes to a free man can never forsake you. This is what he believed. And Dr. King was creating free thinkers. Look at his march to Washington. Look at it. So many people, hundreds of thousands of people, white and black together. When they lived in a reality that said, nope, that's a nigger. You a white person. You above them. You don't allow them to touch you. You don't want to touch nothing that they touched. Y'all are totally separated. But what did you see? A river, a sea of people, all free thinkers. They had no idea that the reality around them was going on. Dr. King had this power of creating free thinkers. Look at the Pettus Bridge, where John Lewis and them got beat up in Selma, trying to cross that bridge and make that freedom march. And they beat them down. Dr. King came back to Selma, gave a 3-minute interview. I need y'all help. Church clergy, whoever you is, an American citizen that want to see America reach its full potential, we need your help. What happened? Thousands of people came from everywhere. And they stood on that bridge that day, freely thinking and accepting the choice that they were about to be beaten. That's why when Martin kneeled down and prayed and turned around and walked away, they were angry at him because he stole their moment of free thinking and independence. I'm going to tell you, now that I know what I know, and I post what I post this Thanksgiving about Matilda and my family ancestry here, I won't entitle it anymore, as we are still here. I'm going to title it, We Have Been Here, and We're Here to Stay. Racism, the separation of the people here has all been created by a pack of freaking lies. All of it. It's a pack of lies. How could you ever hate or dislike the people that saved your life? That's hard. You come to this land, you starving, you can't plant, you can't grow anything. You don't know what's good building materials to build a house, nothing. And these individuals help you. Christopher Columbus said it himself. This indigenous copper-colored people are very friendly. We helped the Europeans that came to this country to survive. So you individuals out there that are very Afrocentric, who may hear this presentation because it's going up on YouTube as well as staying on Facebook. Any of you out there who have a problem with grasping what I'm saying, I'm just going to let you know. Check your bloodline. Do a history search about who your ancestors may be. Because 2% of you, which is only like 900,000 out of 44 million, may have African ancestry in you. The rest of us, me, Dr. King, Muhammad Ali, Dr. J, Jodeci, these are indigenous copper-colored Indians. This is your land. Your land. Forsake that African idea because it's a lie. Start doing your own research. Type into a search engine the black African Americans who were here before the Pilgrims. You got to put it in that way, otherwise it won't pull up nothing. And watch what you find out. Watch what you find out. This is our land, y'all. You an original American. I'm an original American. Every copper-colored person on this country, on its land, on this continent of North and South America, are the true Americans. You don't have to go and try to connect yourself with Africa like most of these people do, who are Afro-American, Afrocentric teachers. Even they bring their butts back home when they get to visit over there. Or they like to come back and brag, oh, I've been to Egypt. I've been in this place in Africa. I've been in this place. I've been there. So why are you back here? You know why you back here? Because you was breaking your neck to get to that plane to get your behind back home. Because you know that ain't your home. And the Africans know. That's why they treat us the way they do. See, when the United States decided to lie to us and steal our identity, no other countries bought in with that shit. The British didn't say, okay, we'll lie too. If any of them come over here, we'll tell them. Nope. You got put on boats with the rest of the Africans, took to America. They never decided to lie with these people. When the United States started creating this lie, we was isolationists anyway. We didn't have no big international ties. We're isolationists. Spain didn't agree to lie for the United States. The records exist, y'all. This is our land. Your home. You don't have to take no trip to Africa. Now, if you want to go, be my guest. But if you go in and try to connect with who you really are, my suggestion is that you go in your backyard or your front yard and get on one knee and stick your hand in the soil and grab as much as you can and put it to your nose and let it fall through your fingers, because this is your land, yours and mine. And thank God for my ancestors' spirit, because if it wasn't for her, my eyes would not be open. The veil that was put over my eyes will probably still be there. I'm going to let y'all go. I talked enough, but I will be back to talk about this subject matter more, because people need to know. And I think that's why Matilda chose me, because she knew that I was not going to stop until every so-called African American knows the truth. You're not from Africa. You're home. Remember, as I always say to be your fellow Americans' keeper, all of you have a good night. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Goodbye. I love you all.